ain't standing nowhere.
When I walk up in the piece, I ain't gotta eat speed. I'm a bad man, my gym got bigger, y'all people ain't got it like me. I ain't studying these crows. Need to talk what you know. Stop talking about who I'm sticking and licking, just mad it ain't chose. I know y'all pull, y'all pull. Y'all job just hanging up close. Step to me, get burnt like toast. Y'all suckers adios amigos. Pose, pose. I don't brag, I mostly post. From the VA to the LA coast. Is it, go? When I put up in my whip, y'all be like, who that is? I'm driving, I'm gliding, I'm sliding. Y'all keep talking about that she is. I'm gripping these girls. Skirt, did you heard? Hot leathers, my feathers, my fur. I fly like a bird. Chicken heads on the ground. Who you trying to f now? Now you ain't getting loud. Better calm down before I smack you to the ground. I need my drum, bass, high, I need my snare, strings, horn. Yes, I need my Tim, sound, right, left. Yes, it, look at him. I don't go out my house, shorty, you just waiting to see. I'm gonna roll up in the club with them, report that next week. Just wanna see who I am for sniffing some yo. I know by the time I'm finished this line, I'ma hear this on the radio.
Okay. Once upon a time in College Park, where they lived life fast and they scared of dark. There was a little by the name of Chris. Nobody paid him any mind, no one gave us. No one he could rap, no one lit the hand. So he went about his business and devised a plan. Made a CD, then he hit the block. 50,000 sold, $7 a pop. Rolled a four, 3 years later.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight in celebration of Black History Month. The FIT Library is thrilled to host through our Love Your Library Events Initiative, along with Professor Elena Romero, the wonderful program we have this evening. The Love Your Library Events program was launched in 2007 to connect FIT students and community with industry professionals, FIT alum, and authors. Our hope is to bring a larger world of possibilities into our community's academic experience. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Offering events and celebrate creativity, diversity, and inclusive content through panel discussions, maker events, and book talks that reflect and celebrate the diverse interests of the FIT community. We extend our gratitude to Greta Ernest, our library director, whose leadership and long-standing support helped Love Your Library flourish for nearly 2 decades, sustaining a vibrant series of events that champion creativity, diversity, and inclusion. Tonight, we celebrate Fly Girls, women, hip-hop, and the power of style. From oversized gold nameplate chains to bamboo hoop earrings, women in hip-hop have always done more than follow trends. They've built a visual language of power, resistance, and self-definition. Long before mainstream recognition, Fly Girls used fashion as a tool to claim space, challenge stereotypes, and express who they were on their own terms. Tonight's conversation is about honoring that legacy while pushing it forward. We'll explore how style intersects with race, gender, identity, and entrepreneurship, and how women in hip-hop continue to influence culture globally, often without getting the credit they deserve. At this time, I would like to introduce FIT President Jason S. Schubach, who will share a few words with all of you. Welcome, President Schubach.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Come on, are you excited for this event? All right, hello. Okay, good. Thank you, Jen, for that kind introduction. And thank you. Let's give it up for Elena Romero, who's put together this incredible panel. I think she's out back. I also just want to recognize and thank our amazing board member, Fern Malice, the creator of New York Fashion Week, who's here in the front row. Thank you, Fern, for being here. So I'm super new. It's day 15, so be gentle. And this is my first panel. I'm so excited that it's about this topic. So I'm really truly humbled and grateful to be joining FIT at this time. And I just have to say it. I know that FIT is the best creative business school in the world. So let's give it up for FIT. Just this month, Vogue named us one of the top 10 fashion schools in the world, and we are absolutely the cheapest one on that list, too. Do you know that we're a community college? Did you know that? Good, yes. And it's really unique conversations like tonight's that make this place so special. FIT's success and reputation will only grow in the months and years ahead. So as I speak to various groups on campus, I do talk a lot about culture. I believe strongly that organizations like FIT rise and fall on their culture. And what I can tell you that I've learned in the last 15 days that's so special is that FIT's culture already reflects the things that I hold dear: community, diversity, and accessibility. Tonight's panel is going to bring together authors and true experts in their fields to discuss how women in hip-hop have defined and distinguished themselves through their clothes, music, and overall sense of style for the last 5 decades. That is like crazy for me to say that hip-hop is 50 years old. It makes me feel really old. But I just really feel fortunate to have had it as part of the soundtrack of my life. Missy Elliott, my favorite. You can give it up for Missy. I mean, come on, right? It also just makes me feel fortunate to work at a college where hip-hop's global impact, not just on music, but on style and culture, is taken seriously and studied for what it says about us as a people. Just a few years ago, Elena actually co-curated an exhibit at the museum at FIT entitled Fresh Fly Fabulous, 50 Years of Hip Hop. And it was actually one of our best attended events in the museum's history. It's a testament to interest in this topic. So as we continue to celebrate Black history this month and every month, I look forward to hearing where tonight's conversation takes us and what it reveals about hip-hop, a global cultural movement that I believe and know is the most dynamic, important, and revolutionary of the last half-century, which makes me feel old. Okay, thanks a lot, and thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm so excited to learn with you all.
Thank you, President Shupa. Hello again. So, we are honored to be joined by an incredible group of creators, historians, and innovators whose work captures the past, present, and future of fly girl fashion and culture. I'm excited to introduce tonight's panel. Nadirah Simmons. Nadirah, come on out. Nadirah Simmons is a cultural historian and author of First Things First, Hip-Hop Ladies Who Changed the Game. Her work centers on women's voices in hip-hop history, documenting the artists, tastemakers, and innovators whose impact has too often been overlooked. Through her writing and research, Nadirah preserves the stories that shape hip-hop's past, present, and future. April Walker. April Walker is a pioneering fashion designer and the founder of Walker Wear, one of the first women-owned streetwear brands to define hip-hop style in the 1990s. Dressing icons from Tupac to Aaliyah, April helped create the blueprint for modern streetwear while centering women, authenticity, and cultural pride in her designs. Toni Grant. Toni Grant is founder of Haus of Swag, a creative platform celebrating hip-hop culture through fashion, styling, and storytelling. Her work bridges nostalgia and contemporary expression, honoring hip-hop's roots while amplifying the voices and aesthetics of women who continue to move the culture forward. Shara McHayle. Shara McHayle is the founder of Hoop 88 Dreams, a brand dedicated to the cultural power and symbolism of hoop earrings. Through design and storytelling, Shara highlights how a single accessory can carry deep meaning around identity, heritage, and self-expression within hip-hop and Black culture. And last but not least, Elena Romero. Elena Romero is the moderator of this evening's event. An assistant chair and assistant professor in marketing communications at FIT, she is the authoritative expert of hip-hop style with her books, Freestylin', How Hip-Hop Changed the Fashion Industry, and Fresh Fabulous, 50 Years of Hip-Hop Style, and curator of her most recent exhibit, Fly Girls, currently in the Feldman Lobby. Elena will be bringing together fashion, history, and cultural dialogue this evening to celebrate women in hip-hop. Through her curatorial work, Elena creates space for storytelling, reflection, and recognition, centering the style, creativity, and influence of women who have shaped hip-hop culture from the beginning. Please welcome our panel.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for all being here. From oversized gold nameplate chains to bamboo hoop earrings like mine, and baby hairs slicked back, women in hip-hop have always used style as more than fashion. It's been our love language, a language of confidence, resistance, creativity, and survival. Long before social media or major fashion houses taking notice, Fly girls were the around-the-way girls who defined trends, shaped identity, and claimed visibility in a culture that didn't always make space for them. We on the stage represent the Fly girls to the fullest. Tonight's conversation is about honoring that legacy while also examining all that it means today. We're here not only to celebrate the bold aesthetics that came out of hip-hop, but to also dig deeper into how race, class, gender, and self-expression are woven into what we wear and why we chose what we wear and how that matters. Our panelists represent different generations and perspectives, historians, designers, founders, and cultural storytellers. But we are all connected. Why? Because we share a commitment to preserving, amplifying, and evolving the impact of women in hip-hop culture. This is a space for reflection, honesty, and dialogue. So as we begin, I invite you all to listen closely, think critically, and feel free to see yourself in their own stories. And with that, let's begin. All right, to start it off, let's go right into the term Fly girls. What does those two words together mean to you, both personally and culturally? That's for everyone on the stage. We'll start with you, Nadirah.
Check, check. Okay. Fly girl, to me, honestly, the first time I remember hearing it was Missy Elliott saying, if you're a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. And that, to me, was everything. I loved Missy. I loved her style. I loved the way she looked, and it was so personal and so self-expressive. And then later on, I learned more about the Fly Girls and In Living Color and, all of the different ways that the term shows up. But for me, as a kid, I looked up to her because I saw that in who she was and how she represented herself.
April?
That's a loaded question for me because when I grew up in New York, it was more visual. It was more of an it girl that I knew in my neighborhood, outside of my neighborhood. You just knew her when you saw her. It was more external with an attitude. And now that I've lived a few decades and had some life experience, a fly girl to me is an internal experience that radiates externally to the world. It starts with character. It starts with knowing yourself. It starts with living in your truth. And sometimes that's unpopular, but that energy, trusting and knowing yourself, is what makes you fly, and it's what makes you different. And that's a real fly girl to me.
That's hard, tough act to follow. you know, growing up in the South, so I'm probably the anomaly here, growing up in Houston. First of all, I just think when I hear fly girl and when I think about a fly girl, she's the purveyor of cool. Like, you see her and you know, oh, that's a fly girl. And it was like a whistle when we heard LL Cool J say, around the way girl. Still a fly girl. She's very authentic. She's not afraid to be herself. And particularly when the Boogie Boys came out with Fly Girl and I was a kid, I knew those girls. They were my aunties, my cousins, the girls in the barber shop, beauty shop, getting their hair done. And, you know, they weren't the girls that you put on the runway. They're the girls that you see every day. And that's what a fly girl is to me.
The question is, I can't separate personal and culture. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Brooklyn in the projects. And I'm going to date myself, but that was in the early 80s. And I was coming of age. And it was during the time that hip hop was really emerging and the artists were making money. But simultaneously, it was the era of crack cocaine. And that was the era where very fast money, the kids that you went to junior high school with started selling drugs, and the fly girl emerged from that environment in those circumstances, and I witnessed it. And for me, she was the flyest. You could not deny her. You could not look at her. You knew she had status, she had connections, and she was fly. And she was at all the hottest hip hop parties. You know what I mean? And if you were going to a block party, you saw her. She was undeniable, and she was wearing furs, sheepskins, 15 years old, 14 years old, leathers, and her jewelry, she was adorned by jewelry, and that is where my love of hoop earrings came from. And her jewelry was just as big as the guys, if not sometimes a little larger. It was fascinating to watch. And she had the flyest shades, she had the flyest jeans. She took her jeans and got permanent creases at the cleaners. It was a thing. And it was something I smile because she informed my style. And I've lived some decades, and I see iterations of her. And it warms my heart, and I owe her a lot. Yeah, that resonates for me.
She was the tastemaker, the influencer of our generation. Though she might have not come from an upper class or middle class environment, how she moved, what she wore, how she spoke really defined a strong, confident woman of color. And she was just a young teenager. But it was things and values that were instilled in her by her aunties and her family to always, in many ways, the same type of expressions that were told to boys. It was important to be pressed, to be clean. Impressions meant a lot. And so how she walked and what she wore spoke volumes. My next question again is also, yes.
I just have to say one thing as you were saying that. Truth be told, the fly girls in the hood influenced the runways in Paris. Yes. And that's what it was.
My next question is for the entire panel as well. Hip-hop fashion has always been deeply tied to lived experience. How did style become a form of empowerment for women in a culture that always wasn't built with them particularly in mind? And then you can share your own story. Would like to take it first.
Can you repeat it one more time? That's a loaded question.
How did style become a form of empowerment for women in a culture that wasn't always built with them particularly in mind? And what's your personal story with style?
If I can, I feel like she didn't really ask for permission.
That's it.
She didn't ask for it. She did it. She took it. She took that space, and she did it her own way. I don't think any clothing in particular, in terms of that aesthetic, was designed for her. And she wore it like the guys, and or feminized it, you know. And if she wanted to elevate it, that's where the leathers came in. That's where the leather suits came in. That's where the leather skirts were coming in. I think, not that I think, there was a subculture of the 5% nation, and she was fly as well. She decided to walk a certain path, and she was wearing head wraps and 3/4, but her jewelry was heavy. Her coats were crazy. And
Modest and stylish.
yeah, and if I have to like remember this question that you asked, right, is that she didn't ask for permission, she did it.
I think that style, I'm pretty much going to say what you said, but in a different way. I think that she always knew that she didn't need somebody else to validate her dopeness, and she wasn't afraid to lead into her magic sauce and self-express, right, in the way she saw it. And speaking from me being that little girl, that young woman, but I think I started early, very early. I know I did. But it was finding myself in the process too, right? And like some people can paint, my thing was clothes and the way I dressed and what I wore. And, you know, different days I felt differently, but it never was looking to see what she had on or she had on. It was about what I felt and how I wanted to tell my story to the world. And you know, in the 80s, when the crack era was coming in and all those things, that's when I, you know, painted on my jeans and had Malcolm X on the back or Bart Simpson with a gold tooth. You know, it was however I felt. I was going to say that, and I was going to say, if you don't get it, you're not supposed to, you know, but this is me. And yeah, it's inside out. It's an inside out job. That's a fly girl.
I think just extending that, when you, the end of your question was kind of personally how it informs our style. For me, kind of same thing, but you know, one of my monikers with House of Swag is create what you don't see. So it's always about like, okay, again, like you said, not looking left or right, but internally, like, what does it feel like to me? And you're hoping it's not an egotistical thing that I'm just going to do this and they're all going to love it, but you feel it in your soul, like it's just something that innately informs your style, like, okay, if they don't get it, it's okay, but this is me. And then you get lucky that people go, oh, that's fly, I like that. But that's, for me, what it is. Like, I'm just always trying to create what I don't see. If it's not there, how do I do it? How does it make someone feel? You know, because ultimately that's what's they're gonna want to rock it if they feel it, you know? So yeah.
I would say for me, for my personal style, I love to mix and match. And the thing that I love about hip hop is that there are no rules. So if I want to wear a sweatsuit with some heels, if I want to wear the baggy pants with some sneakers and a fur coat like I did today, there are no rules to what you can do. And I think that's what I learned from an early age and from a really young age, from just hanging around my parents and growing up and watching different music videos and being handed a XXL magazine and then being like, look at that, making sure that I actually knew what people were wearing, what was going on in the community, and that I could express myself through fashion in any way possible. I could mix and match whatever I wanted because it was something, again, to echo what everyone said, it's internal, it's the way I express myself.
Nadirah, women in hip hop have shaped trends globally, yet their contributions are often overlooked or even erased. Why do you think that is, and how do we begin to correct that narrative?
Ooh, patriarchy, white supremacy. There are a lot of things that make it so we don't see the contributions of people of color in hip hop. I mean, that's really it, those two things right there. it's something that when I was working on my book, I had a very tough time trying to find a lot of information about a lot of different people. You got to pay the New York Times, you got to pay whatever publication to get access to the archive, and then hope that they actually scanned the archive or thought it was valuable enough, or this person's story was worth scanning and saving. There was a lot of that, and there's so much at stake. And I think even if we look at the world and the time that we live in now, where you have people saying that they're going to make changes to the Medgar Evers house, and they're not going to allude to racism or anything being the reason why he's no longer here with us or why he was no longer with us. We have to be able to tell our stories. We have to be able to write them down and archive them. And if we aren't able to, I want people to feel inspired and encouraged enough to talk to the people around them. Even if that's DMing somebody that you admire and you love and saying, hey, I love what you've done with this. Can you just talk to me a little bit about it? Maybe saving an image, saving a magazine you have in your home. My parents have thrown out so many magazines over the year. I was home this week and there's like 10 left. I'm like, y'all had 200 and they're not here anymore. Why did we do that? It's just important to archive and to save and to talk to people. But again, to answer your question, people didn't always find these stories valuable, and people didn't think that they would be an important part of history. And stories often get told by the men and oftentimes by white men, but patriarchy rules a lot of what is told in hip hop. So I wanted to change that.
So through your research and writing, what were some of the key moments or figures in hip hop history that you felt deserved far more recognition when it comes to fashion, and particularly fashion and style?
I mean, every single woman on the stage, Miss Shara, with PB Nation, you go from $150,000 to $2.1 million in sales. You did that. Miss Toni Grant, starting her work with Timbaland and then with Harlem World and working on all of these television productions like Wu-Tang and then the Super Bowl. Miss Toni. Miss April, the blueprint for hip-hop fashion and streetwear. Not one of the blueprint for streetwear. People like Sybil Penix and the work that she did at Uptown and that Source cover with Mary J. Blige that I love so much. When I think about Shireen Wood, Harlem Haberdashery, 5001 Flavors, Bevy Smith, being at Vibe and really, rallying to get those luxury fashion houses to advertise in those magazines, and knowing that what that did shaped the way that they looked at us and the way that we interacted with them. And they also kind of took from us a little bit as well. There are, you, of course, all of your work as a journalist, with WWD over there's just so much that has been done. There are so many women, but those are the moments that I really think of. Misa Hilton, if I think about Kim with the breast out on the red carpet. People are still trying to recreate iconic moments like that. Every single woman that I named, those are the moments you need to know, and there are more than that. I could talk for hours about all the people who really contributed to what this thing is, that is not just hip-hop fashion, but hip-hop, all parts of it. The women are there at the forefront from the very beginning.
April, how has hip-hop fashion for women evolved over time, and what are the elements that have remained constant?
Wow. I think that, well, number one, when I started, there was no urban fashion or streetwear. And now it's evolved into a $300+ billion industry. And there are a lot of women that are really in streetwear, have streetwear brands, have a career that's surrounded by that culture. So I really have seen it grown. There was no product placement. Now we have product placement. We have so many different ancillary branches that stem from that foundation of creativity. And women, what she just said, right? Writers, there's you, I remember when you first started. And I you know what I mean? We got the young, gonna be the OG, but she's telling our stories, like I didn't have any of that. I didn't see anything that represented me when I started. And now I have sisters sitting to the left and the right and storytelling, and I have generations. I mentor a lot of up and coming, a lot of students, and it's wonderful to see, because the difference of fashion now, to finish answering your question, is also, that's one side, but the other side is it's evolved, right? I had to work with Bull Denim and it was very limited. Technology has changed the game. So when you
How
think
so?
about creativity and where we're going in the future and where we're at now, we're just scratching the surface. It's so different, and you guys have a paintbrush and a canvas to work from to change things for the future in an amazing way.
Shara, bamboo earrings, nameplates, bold silhouettes. Why do you think certain items became so powerful as cultural symbols?
The silhouettes that you're talking about, they equate to identity, status, and resistance. And those qualities are undeniable. And I believe those styles are sought after because all women want that in one way or another. And yeah.
For those of you who've built brands and businesses, talk a little bit to our students about the challenges you face, and especially as women, and where your brands are today.
Challenges. Ooh, where do I start? I guess I can definitely speak to everyone wanting a moment when they have a brand, right? So everyone wants that, like, if I could just, have that one moment, and I'll speak to that. So the Fly Girl t-shirt was made out of my favorite group, Run DMC IV. It was a dream to, like, walk in a room and have Reverend Run go, I love that. I could have fainted, right? And it became popular, and I was able to get it into a Netflix show 2 years ago, and it was heavily featured on Survival of the Thickest on Netflix. So we're in 100 million, I mean, it's crazy, right? Thank you. That's the upside. The downside is the next day there were like 200 Etsy stores with it. It was everywhere. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, people have been copying and everything. And I'll just say to anyone listening, with branding, have your copyright in place, have your trademark in place, have something to fight. And don't go for the little guys. Wait for the big kahunas to grab you, like a wall person or a tar person. And then you go for them. But have your paperwork ready, because now, with the age of dupes, if I can speak to that, when we were coming up, that was scoffed at if you wore a duplicate or something that was a knockoff. Now it's, it's a cultural reverence almost that these kids are like, oh, I'll just grab the dupe. Unfortunately, for small businesses like ours who are still trying to grab visibility, it hurts us. Because someone has duplicated, as in my case, with something that could have been great. Now, I will say it was wonderful to have that feature. We've got a Glamour Mag feature from it and all those things. But the downside is if you're not ready for that, sales-wise or otherwise, it could really, like, hit you in the gut. So just be ready for your next, to explain your why when there's time for you to explain that. Yeah.
I would say to all the students, it's great to have a passion, but as soon as you can decide whether you want fashion to be a hobby or a business, it's going to help you. Because you have to make hard decisions, and a lot of times with creatives, we want to create, and we have a certain vision, and we're like, this is my vision. And we always think our vision is the greatest. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And you have to decide, who am I serving? Right? Because if you're only serving yourself, it's a fail. I'm just going to be real with you. It has to be bigger than you. And if it's going to be a business, there are going to be a lot of times where you have to compromise on not your values, but maybe some things you need to do now so you can have what you want later, right? And that is often looking at your business as it's growing and reevaluating that business and where we are today. And does today, what I started with my business plan, does it still look the same today? And do I need to maybe tweak, reevaluate, or pause and say, where's the future? Where's my bullseye? Am I drifting away? Because what she said, right? A lot of things, when you're starting to build, there are going to be so many moments and straws and opportunities, and all opportunities aren't good opportunities. And you have to have a bullseye and a North Star to know this is where I'm aiming and this is what I'm going to hit. And you have to say no to some things that might look great, but they're not congruent with your brand values, and that's going to hurt you. So there are all kinds of things to think about, but I would say think of your creativity as a business and treat it as such. Study your numbers as early as possible. Surround yourself with a team. If you're going to be the creator, make sure you have a good accountant, a good lawyer, trademark. Your IP is everything. And really decide what kind of distribution you want. You know, the world is changing, and I know you guys know more than anything, upcycling, recycling, sustainability, that is needed because this industry is the second most toxic industry in the world. Like, we're making changes, I don't think fast enough. So when I started, it was problem solving. And I think if you think in that way, it always works, problem solving.
Shara?
These wonderful women are saying everything that I would have said, but I'm going to piggyback on April in terms of really thinking through what kind of business you want to have. In that space is like, what do I want to do? Do I want to have a lifestyle business where I could just take care of myself and my family? Do I want to have a $2 million business, $5 million business, $10 million? It really dictates the decisions you're going to make. It really frames how you're going to live your life. And that's incredibly important. The era that we came up in, we are self-taught. And as Toni said, we created what did not exist. And that was the driving force. I think, though, we would have benefited from understanding the business and not relying on the garmentos to tell us what it was. So if I would have attended FIT, and I did, by the way, and then I dropped out because I knew I wanted to do this thing.
We welcome you back.
You know? And I only lasted a semester, honestly. And I was like, I got it, I know it, I get it, I got it, you know? That I would complete my education, but simultaneously, I would be out in the practice. Theory is important, practice is critical, and then you dig down deep in terms of what is missing, what is my why. All of these things that you'll set up as building bricks will sustain you. I think the first, the starting 5 coming out in streetwear when it wasn't, there was no name for the category, excuse me. They were wonderful. They really made everyone look, and the garmentos were watching, and the department stores were watching, and we had to outperform. We had to you know, there is the birth or origin of product placement, because we could not afford advertising. And hip hop was our media, you know, that was our media partner, okay? And those artists, I'm gonna cite, you know, April's work, you know, they were like, and I'm gonna tell you a story. You want me to tell you a story? So they were like, I'm gonna rock with you. You know, what you got?
And keep in mind that April was the behind the scenes figure. She intentionally marketed her brand where she wasn't known to be a woman who owned the men's brand. And April, you could speak to that a little bit later.
I mean, that was face running,
Yeah.
you know, but in the back, you know, the decision makers, they knew who she was. I knew who she was. She was the starting. That was the team, and that inspired me to say, you know, streetwear or urban or these brands are not monolithic. You know, April was doing her thing at Walkerwear. We were doing our thing at P&B. We were, and I'm proud to say, the first brand that pioneered social statements. That's what we hung our hat on. So
100%.
yeah, and there's so many brands that it's so exciting. I was like, wow, I mean, you went to school, right? Yeah, I could tell you what, you know, and you're making these decisions and you're studying, right? And, you know, Fear of God, I think, Laquan Smith, I don't want to, you know, these are big brands and they're making statements, and it warms my heart. And so just to bring it full circle, I think that without that framework, it becomes really difficult and challenging. And I think as women of color, Black women, you know, it's almost like a badge of honor, which we should not, because we're depleted. And then we can't really fight when there's an infringement on your, you know, and, you know, we kind of like, that's another conversation, but for another time. But, you know, I think that is the important framework that sits in the bottom of my stomach.
I want to add one thing while I'm thinking about it. First of all, that was excellent. Thank you for helping to tell my story, because you did a great job.
Okay, I'll do it another time.
But I just want to say to you guys, I think who you collaborate right now as you're building a brand could be more important than who you hire. That's the difference of when I started. I think right now our culture needs collaboration more than anything. The fashion business, whatever industry we're in creatively, in order to thrive right now, we need to Voltron. And as you're coming up together, don't be afraid to work together. All of these ladies on stage, we have worked together, and we lift each other up. And we can still do our own thing and have our own flavor, but that is the magic for you. If you can figure out how to lock in and build together, you're creating community, you're creating strength. If you're buying 10 yards of denim and you're buying 100 yards and you're buying 100 yards, buy it together, because that's more force, that's more power. They're going to respect you more, and as you keep practicing those things, trust me, it will help you in your business.
I just want to piggyback. I'm piggybacking, right? And you know, buy it together. You know, walk in together, and say that we're a unit. Yeah. Because that's what it is. Yeah.
So along those same lines, how important is ownership and authorship when it comes to hip-hop fashion, especially as mainstream brands continue to borrow from the culture?
I'm going to start with that one. I was in a situation a few years ago with a very famous designer that took one of my iconic pieces, and I got a DM from someone that said, oh, great, you're in Saks. You did a collaboration with this designer. And it wasn't. But they had taken the logo and they were running with it. And then it started, like everybody started hitting me about it. And anyway, the point to it all is it was a long, drawn-out experience that I had to stand on my own 2 feet and fight for. But I think everybody has to do that. I think that what you should do, you guys just talked about it. Right now, drive-bys on social media are so rampant. Like, you just see everyone stealing and appropriating designs from particularly Black and brown and people of color, smaller brands, right? Because they think we could do creative looting because you can't stand up to our corporate lawyers and you can't compete. We'll take you out of business. So what I'm telling you is own your intellectual properties. Don't put stuff out there before you're ready to show it and you know how to execute, because, you know, the streets is watching, you know, all the time. So make sure that if you have something great, you're ready to show it and monetize, right? And you have a plan for that. And you take your time. And if something is really meant, you don't have to worry about, I have to show it. Because I think creatively that's how we feel, right? Especially when we're so passionate. But the other side of it is the business. What do I want to do with this special piece? What do I want to do with this design? How do I want to edge craft and show the world and monetize it? How do I want to market it? How do I want to storytell? How do I want to make money? And so take your time, own your intellectual properties. Again, have a good lawyer that can help you with that, because that is a big part of this business. I come from the entertainment side, reverse engineered into fashion from the music side, working with a lot of artists. And I saw it firsthand with their musics and their masters. And what I'm telling you is fashion, your IPs are your masters. Own your masters.
Nadirah, what responsibility do we have to preserve and document fly girl fashion history?
A very, very big responsibility. Something I just want to echo based on what Miss April said, especially if you all have businesses, fashion, whatever it is, please do a SWOT analysis. Please sit down, see what your strengths are, your weaknesses are, your opportunities, and your threats. I think oftentimes when we have a business, we're just so, like she said, excited. We want to create, we want to make, we don't want to think about competition, we don't want to think about what that person over there is doing. And when you run a business, you can't think like that. So please, 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 please do that. And to answer your question, it kind of applies in the same way. Back to even thinking about my parents throwing out all of those magazines. When my dad met Miss Shara, he's like, I had a P&B Nation shirt, I can't find it. And we were like, yo, what are you doing? Like, why did you get rid of it? Keep your stuff. There's nothing wrong with keeping your stuff. There's nothing wrong with getting together, again, with your community. A lot of people will put stuff in storage lockers, but you'll have shirts that are sitting in a basement. The basement gets damp, it gets wet. Now we got this iconic piece that is molded. I've seen it many, many times over. You're leaving stuff in your attic. It gets really, really hot. The shirt now has 100 holes in it. Nobody can even tell what it was. Just please, please, please preserve your stuff. Talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones, and even as you're operating, you're existing now and you're moving through the world, the stuff that you buy, take pictures of it. Take pictures of yourself in it. I feel like sometimes people, they want to be cool. Nobody wants to take photos. Nobody, wants to obviously live in the moment, but please document the stuff that you have. Every single thing you do and every single thing you wear and every single person you talk to as you are moving through this world every single day is history that you're making. So please don't feel like it is dumb or stupid or random to just document what you're doing and as you're living. Please save your stuff, and if you're not going to save it, take pictures. And if you're not going to do that, hit up FIT, hit up a local museum or library. There are so many places that want to keep this stuff and document it. But don't just toss something, and don't hoard either. Again, hit these people up.
Great advice. A question for all the panelists. How do today's fly girls carry the legacy forward differently than the age of social media and, of course, fast fashion?
So I think we carry it forward. We have to change our value system. I always hear people say, well, I've never heard of it, right? Well, just because you haven't heard of it doesn't make it less fly, right? New discoveries, right? But changing your value system is what propels us forward, because we can't let people take what we've built. Someone else can look at what we're doing and go, oh, that's just them doing the street thing. That's what they did 50 years ago, and here we are. And there's been a lot of, if people, I don't equate success to money, but a lot of people do. And if you do, and you're thinking of hip hop and who scoffed at it and who said it was jungle music and all of the fashion that's come out of it, and even runways who are copying it, or the fashion designers who are copying it, but we're not valued in that space. So that's what I'm meaning by we must preserve our value. Like, make people know that this is what this is, right? And how you do that is, it starts with the statement T. If someone's out there and you're listening and you think you can't do it, you can. You can create it with just one t-shirt. That's how I started. And I want to say also, and I hope I don't get emotional, I was here in this space. I used to run from my PR job at 32nd and 7th Avenue. I worked in high fashion. I used to give, presentations at Bindle's and all those things, but I was not fulfilled. Hip hop was my love. So I always felt like the odd person out when I would even speak about streetwear or hip hop. Even in class here, I get scoffed at or, laughed at almost. Like, what is she even talking about? And just to look around at this room and see FIT and being that girl running in the snow trying not to be late for class, hip-hop did this. It did. And so that's, to me, how we continue to bring that legacy forward. I sometimes don't look at myself as a legacy forward bringer, but I'm sitting here because of that. But I don't take credit for it. It's hip-hop. And it's the reason that I'm here. So my job with continuing to create for Haus of Swag or anything is to be a love letter first to women who are often unseen. And I think that's where the value comes from, and it's internal. But once it's internal, if it's out, someone else is going to see that value. They just do, and they get it. But it starts with self. So for me, that's how I'm preserving it. I continue to create. I continue to push forward that narrative that we've been here all this time, and we're going to continue to be here and continue to build and create strong brands as we have. And you can start with one something and have that flourish. Yeah.
April, Shara?
It's a huge responsibility. And and to April and Toni's point, is internal. I could only reflect on making or pivoting from streetwear to jewelry design. And I wanted to do something new and something different. And I had to think about what it was that I wanted to, I wanted hoop earrings. That was my thing, right? And, with all the years, I learned, do one thing and do one thing really, really, really well. So I created the brand. I thought about hoops and dreams in 1988, and that was my favorite year in hip hop, so I got the name. And then I was like, okay, I have all these variations of hoop earrings, and I want to do different designs as well. And but who am I going to talk about? Like, what is the branding? What's the marketing? What am I? And I was like, wait a minute, what did you experience? What are you experiencing right now? In terms of erasure, in terms of, and it was that one day that I'm eating by myself and I'm air hustling. You know, like when you go somewhere and you eat by yourself and you hear everyone's conversation. And they were young women and they were like, yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker is the one that introduced the bamboo hoops. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, wow. And my head dropped and I was like, you know, look at God. I was just like, I was so bothered by that, right? Patricia Fields, she's dope. And she knew what she was doing. She was, you know, Sex and the City, iconic New York City, and she was borrowing, right? And that often happens with us, with the aesthetic, right? So April's saying that aesthetic is in on the runways, in the fashion magazines, and I was like, there you go. Let me talk about her. But it was. I'm not going to say it's her. So which style is going to be my hero? You know, who is my hero? Who informed my style? Let's tell that story. And the why, if you could find it, you know, is so incredibly powerful. And I think it's just part of my DNA, it's part of my background because P&B was telling stories like that and educating through, you know, through these statement-driven teas, and was being able to, like, let me just sneak that in. Did you know? Did you know this happened in this year? And do you know, flipping logos? I mean, we wasn't supposed to be flipping logos, but we were flipping that. I mean, that's streetwear, right? You're flipping it, right? So I think that is incredibly important. The responsibility of saying, when you find your thing, is saying like, okay, who am I gonna serve? And I'm gonna serve her. I'm gonna talk about her. I know there's an audience that's gonna remember her. I know there's an audience that's influenced by her. And everyone else is welcomed, but I'm not gonna deviate from her. I'm not gonna make it palatable for someone else to buy into that. So, you know, that's my 2 cents.
That was good, 2 cents.
That was $1.
That was $1.
That was more than $1. Can you repeat that question one more time?
Our responsibility to preserve and document the Fly Girl fashion history.
I think that our responsibility, at least on this stage, is to keep living in your truth. I'll go back to being 21 and started, and why I started. And it was to self-express, to say how I felt and wanted to share that energy with the tribe that wanted to say something, that wanted to wear something. The music was there, the art was there, everything else, but we didn't have the uniforms. We were manipulating everything, but we couldn't go to buy it in the stores. So I wanted to serve my tribe, and now it's a global tribe. But it's still looking at that 21-year-old and remembering why she started, and having the heart to trust what she believed in, and still having that. The hardest thing for you guys is going to be, I think, when you start succeeding. Because a lot of time you forget that right there, that inner voice, that your why. And so my responsibility is to remember my why, and at this chapter, to pass the baton to you and to pour into your cups so that you can go ahead and soar and hopefully problem solve and win and make it bigger than you.
So ladies, what advice would you give to young women using fashion as a tool for self-expression and resistance today?
Create without fear. You have to take a step forward. You have to not look left or right, not Google and scroll and copy. Create without fear. somebody wants what you have. And if that one somebody turns into 10 somebodies and 100 somebodies, you've won.
It's about courage. It really is. That's all I got for that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this isn't for the weak, right? You have to really believe in your dream more than anybody else. It's not another person's responsibility to believe in what you believe in and the vision that you have. And I'm going to tell you, when most people won't understand your vision, they won't get it at first. They'll tell you you're crazy, you need to go get a job that pays this, that does that, do this on the side, whatever. But if it's something you can't stop thinking about, and sometimes I'm going to say that could be true. Like looking back, I was very lucky because I think God, it was a God moment assisting along with time, opportunity, and the stars lined up. But now it's a very oversaturated market. And I believe that we all have something, but sometimes you have to reconfigure the plan, right? Your day job might be actually fueling your side gig that's going to become your full-time gig, your dream, right? So the day job might be taking care of the dream that eventually the dream is going to be your full-time gig. So think about it smart, but create without fear. I was naive to fear, and it served me well. And so I'm telling you, don't listen to the naysayers. If you pour out and you're the only one that gets it, you gotta be crazy a little bit to do this, and that's okay. Crazy is a compliment. Get that book because it's real and it will really confirm a lot of things for all of you.
Last question for the panel before we open it up for questions. If there's one thing you want people to walk away with understanding about women in hip hop fashion, what is it that you want to leave them with?
I would say that they've been here from the very beginning. They are the reason that we have the trends. They set the trends and they continue to set the trends. And I would also tell people to read. I think a lot of times, especially the time we're now, reading, not happening as much as I would like it to. And I think that's sometimes how these stories get retold. That's why I can get on TikTok, just like when Shara said, and they can say that SJP is the reason people are wearing bamboo earrings. I see that a lot. This person was the first to do this. And I'm like, no, that's not true at all, actually. Like, report, this is wrong. I really want people to read and research and know where these things come from. If you're walking down the street and you see a poster with a name on it and you don't recognize that person, look them up. If you're in a town and you see a street name and you don't know who that street is named after, look them up. Don't be afraid to read and research. It's such a lost art, and we're striving for that quick social media validation. We want likes, we want to share a point, we want to be able to say, I know this and this is what this is, but we have to be able to read, we have to be able to do our research. Some of the best hip hop is created when the people know the foundation and where it came from.
That was great.
Yeah.
I would say that women in hip hop are often hidden figures. I would say we do the work because we do the work, and we do the work, and we do the work because we believe in ourselves, and we're nurturers, and we're cultivators, and we're creators, and we don't a lot of times do things for accolades, but we do them to improve our communities, sustain our livelihoods, and because we believe, right? We love, we lead with love. Now, on the other hand, I'm going to say that this women in hip hop is like a microcosm to the society of women. And we have to change the fact that women aren't treated with the same respect. They don't make the same money as men. And oftentimes a man has to validate their dopeness for people to speak their names in the room. And that's some bull. So what you can do, like she said, read, but also speak women's names. Be advocates. Be a bullhorn. And really, again, collaborate. Energy feeds energy. And the more we advocate for each other, the more we become a force together. And the more we create change. And that's just women and men. We're allies. We need each other. But a lot of times we need that energy that only you can give, a tribe can give. We're better together.
I was scrolling, honestly, on Instagram before I got here, and I saw this post from the NAACP, and I was like, oh, wow, this is important. This is Black History Month. We're talking about the Fly Girl. And I feel like what I would want to impart, the NAACP posted it, and it was, we have to remember that Black culture is the blueprint. Black culture is copied, credited late, or not at all. Black culture is legacy. Black culture is always ahead of its time. Black culture is the root of everything. So if you remember this, and that fortifies you, and you have discovered your why and is rooted in Black culture, don't let anyone move you off that mark, and keep speaking, marketing, creating from that space. That's what I have to add.
Advice. What do you want to leave folks with?
I know this is someone else's IP, but it rings true for all of us here on this stage. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I don't know the correct quote, so it may be off, but it said something to the point of your ancestors took the brunts and the bruises because they knew that you would come along to flesh out the dream. So just being here today, to be honest, is like a dream. And I'm speaking to Toni, who would have been sitting in that audience, and any young person. You have to keep going. I know it sounds cliche. I know everyone says it. And I'm up here with 80 jobs. I was just on tour with Kendrick Lamar in Australia. I did Missy 2 years ago. So I'm not just sitting up here like, oh, look at me, I'm a brand owner. I still work. I still do costume design and film and TV and all the things. So if you're out there and you're listening, don't let your friends talk you into quitting your day job and doing this. No, ma'am or sir. Continue to have some source of income to feed yourself. I know that that's, my mom always says that, but it's really true. It's tough out here. It's a tough economy, and, honesty saves everyone's time. And a lot of times when you get on these panels, people talk about how great they are, and they're not talking realistic. And realistically, you must continue to work in order to take care of yourself. Don't quit your day job, but don't stop daydreaming, and keep your foot on someone's neck. Never stop, never surrender.
All right, we're going to open up the floor for questions.
Oh, thank you. I'll stand up. So, you all look so fly. Yeah. Give it up. Yeah, hell yeah. So I feel like you ladies have answered the question that I wrote down, but I'll ask it again. Specifically to April Walker, you mentioned that being a fly girl starts inside out. Can you speak more to evolving through your creative process when bills need to get paid, family becomes ill, and you might think it's time to pivot? And then can I ask the second part of the question? Okay. And then I'm so sorry for nerves. I forget your name right now.
Nadirah?
Nadirah. Yes.
Hey.
Hi, Nadirah.
No worries. Don't be sorry.
Sweet. So can you give organization advice, and how have you been able to keep up with your archives and organize it so that you can share it? Thank you.
Okay, for part A of that question that's very real. I think that she answered it kind of already, right? There's times when you're gonna have to do things you don't wanna do in order to keep fueling your dream and daydreaming, right? And sometimes we have to be realistic about life. Like, it doesn't mean I'm giving up. It means I'm taking care of myself. I'm sustaining, I'm self-sustaining, I'm problem solving right now, which is actually gonna help you in your entrepreneurial journey, because being an entrepreneur is just problem solving all day long. You know, so you wanna be able to, you can't really, when you're a creator, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a businesswoman, you really can't separate personal and professional in that way as a creator to a large extent. So you have to make tough decisions, and maybe you do need to pivot for a second. It's not giving up, right? A lot of times I've hit burnout, like in my life, more than once. And I had to acquire a toolbox. And like you said, the evolution of April came with learning tools, learning that nature was one of my best friends, learning that I don't think hustle is a bad word, so let me start there. I have my own opinions about that. I think if you want to be great, you're going to have to put in some elbow grease and some extra hours, but I do believe that I didn't know better at 21, and working 12 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week will give you burnout, and that happened to me, you know. So then you don't want the thing that you love to become the thing that you resent, and that can happen, right? A lot of times we have toxicity masked in our passion. So it's learning how to have an integrated, healthy lifestyle, and I've only learned that through living and acquiring a toolbox and therapy and a whole bunch of other things. But what I'm telling you is life is tough. I'm not gonna lie. And there's gonna be a lot that's gonna hit you personally, and learning how to breathe through it and pause and problem solve, and maybe it is, let me go get this side gig, like she just said, to keep going right now. And I'm gonna pause. This is gonna be a lighter year than next year, but I'm not giving up. One step is still in front of the other. I'm just moving a little slower. I'm putting together my game plan. And the beautiful thing that you have is, I don't know what kind of business you're doing or planning, but I will just say that you don't have to do every month a different drop. You can create how you want to, and you can create your own business the way you want to.
So you said, how do I maintain my archive? Organization? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little insane. So I have a hard drive, and then have a few few Gmail accounts. You know, sometimes Gmail, once you hit a certain amount, they're like, hey, you got this much space left. So I get around that by creating a few. We're not about to throw money at a bunch of, no, we're not doing that. So a bunch of Gmail accounts, having a hard drive, then having a physical archive. So at my family home, I have a lot of stuff there that is in the basement, some stuff that is in the garage that needs to be kept cool. I was just going through all of it yesterday, making sure I keep all of the physical stuff. Anything physical that I have, I take pictures of it, I upload it right to that hard drive, and I also put it in that Google Drive. So that way, I have the physical thing, and I also have it in 2 spaces. Let's say, God forbid, I lose that hard drive or I leave it on a plane, it's still in that Google Drive in the cloud somewhere online. Let's say I forget the password to one of those accounts one day, I still have that hard drive. Let's say, who knows what's going on, I can't access the internet for whatever reason, I can just go to the crib or I can call my mom and say, hey, can you send me a picture of that real fast? I also have it there. So I think just making sure you always have a backup and a backup to the backup, and just by maintaining it, and any physical stuff, again, knowing where clothes need to be. So the clothes, we don't want them to get too cold, but we also don't want them to be really, really hot. If I have photos, I don't want them to be smushed together between a bunch of different things that can also make them hot, because now they're weathering and the photos are changing and then they can get moldy. Also knowing what to put in the garage versus maybe what to put in my bedroom or what to put in the closet, depending on the temperature. Knowing that, okay, it's about to be summertime, maybe I move some of this into the basement because it's a little bit cooler. That's really what I'm doing all the time, and kind of, keeping up with all of that stuff. And then going to thrift stores and record stores, and honestly anywhere I can, probably every other day, just to browse and see what I see. If I see a CD that I like, if I see a magazine that I like, an old newspaper that I like, a DVD that I like, I'll just buy it, take a picture of it, upload it, and I'll still have it physically. You're welcome.
Peace, everybody. My name is Tembisa Mshaka. I'm the co-founder and co-curator of the Hip Hop Beauty Circa 1973 exhibition. We're showing the Studio 6 gallery from February 13th until the 17th. So please come by. I just want to acknowledge my sister legends. Oh my God, this panel just healed me. Just because there's so much erasure, there's so much appropriation. And so to see FIT, thank you, Elena, platforming originators and innovators in this, it's really gratifying, and I'm thankful. The question I have is about something that the woman who started the panel mentioned would be discussed, and that is the intersection of race with respect to this. Can y'all touch on that, sort of where that's impacted you, or what you think, maybe if it's a societal POV that you want to share, just how does, race impact what your journey has been as an innovator in this space, and for you, Nadirah, as a curator? And I might have some stuff for you, because I was a rap editor for Gavin from 1998,
I would
1993
love that.
to 1998.
Oh, I would love that.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
You always get the good questions. Okay. I think race affects everything, always. I think the world is upside down right now because of race. I think when I think about the fashion industry, and particularly my journey in it, and the journey up here, I think about the other creative industries. I think we're always on this side, but not this side. I think that when I think about the art, we create and birth every form of art that is beautiful, and then it's taken from us, it's recreated, regurgitated, and sold back to us. And I think we line up to buy it every time. And I think it's time for us to be vertical in our own industries, so we don't have to depend on others to do our distribution, to do our production, to tell our stories, because we're telling it And that's full ownership. But until then, that's why I really, really tell you all to collaborate more. Because there's power in collaboration. There's power in working with your own community. And I think that's, when we look at the world right now and how they divided us, I think that's been the superpower, right? Not understanding our own power. And I think once we understand that we are the biggest consumers, we have the biggest spending power. If we shut it down today, the world will stop. If we can use that and reappropriate some of those dollars back into our own communities. And the supply chain, that's where the vertical comes in. It starts there, right? We need more production. We need more factories. We need more textiles. We need from soup to nuts. We don't need one. We need a community. But it will start with one and grow. And there are some. But they need the support. And so I think a lot has to change. But yes, race is at every intersection, at every industry, and fashion is no different. And conversations being held at FIT, thank you. Because we need these conversations. And this is how it changes.
Hi, my name is Kia. First, thank you all for being here. Second, speaking of fly girls, I just wanted to point out all the fabulous boots on stage. My question is for all of the authors on stage. During your process of writing, were there any challenges or roadblocks you faced, and how did you work through them? And did this change the way you told or displayed your story?
I guess I'll start since I'm the veteran. There's always a limit by the number of words you're told you can work with. That's the canvas. And my first book was 75,000 words, and the Museum of FIT book, we fought really hard for it to have 50,000 words. I wanted it to have a balance of pictures and words because while pictures told stories, words couldn't. The stories were equally, if not more important, because they haven't been put in context, right, in social and historical context. As a writer, there's always tough decisions and which stories get put in and which stories get omitted. Sometimes we have no control over that. I tried to correct the stories I omitted in the first book and incorporate it in the second. They still get left out, and hopefully I can continue to tell them in other venues and other formats. We need more voices. So I welcome young writers and writers-to-be to look beyond the surface. So many of us, and I see my colleagues who teach journalism here, we teach the 5 W's, we can teach you the technical parts of storytelling, and so everyone can kind of plop in the information and you've got a story. But what's gonna make her book or our book different from someone else's is our lived experiences and our perspectives and how we see the story from multiple viewpoints. So we need more orators, we need more people to pay attention, to go beyond the surface of the storytelling, to tell the stories that make them feel uncomfortable, right? Because the stories are there. It's just who's asking and who's defining if that story is newsworthy or not. So that's why our work is so important. And we want to continue to pass the torch to all of you. Take our courses.
I would say one of the hardest things was having to cut chapters. I have so many chapters still on my computer from First Things First, and I'm like, this got to be Second Things Second. Yeah,
Just
like
do volume 2.
Yes, this has to go somewhere. I think the other thing that I wasn't even aware of was copyright. I remember I submitted the book. I was very excited that I submitted it on time. And I think Tuesday of that next week, they were like, hey, so this entire chapter, there's too many lyrics in it. And I was like, what you mean? Like, I wrote them down. I'm not singing them. No one's performing them. And they're like, no, girl, you cannot go over 3 lines per song. So I literally had to rewrite the entire chapter. It was my favorite chapter. I was really, like, upset about that and, like, incorporating that in that way because I had so much music throughout the book And it worked out, but there are so many roadblocks. I also think trying to get access, again, to some of the primary sources. You want to read this newspaper, you want to read this article, and it's one thing for it to be blocked by a paywall. It's another thing for maybe a hip hop site that you remember reading in high school no longer existing. And not being able to find that article, and to, maybe that journalist is not on Instagram or not on Facebook or not on LinkedIn. Like, I can't find them, so I also can't talk to them about that. I think that was really, really, just really frustrating. And it's definitely something that I lost sleep over, because like, oh my God, this has to be in here. How can I tell this story without this? And then also, how can I not have these lyrics to supplement the stories I'm telling about all of these women? Literally, there were lyrics tied to everybody at one point in the book, and they had to go because it was literally just too much. So yeah, definitely a shock that was a thing.
And I need to do a quick shout out to my colleague, Mr. Emil Wilbekin, former editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine, for his support and for all he's done for pushing the culture forward. Other questions?
Legend.
Hello, beautiful ladies. It's me. Thank you for your presence and sitting with us today. I feel very blessed to be here, and I'm very grateful. On the topic of hip hop, what is a song that inspired you throughout your career that you hear and you get into flow state, or you hear and really sets the tone for right now, or throughout your career? Sorry.
Don't believe the hype.
For me, it's my beat, and that's what's Jazzy Joyce and Sweet Tea.
Don't sweat the technique.
Anything from MC Light. Anything.
Mine is What We Do. Beans, Freeway, Hove, that is the one.
Thank you.
Hi, once again, hey, April. I appreciate you guys showing up and giving the knowledge that y'all gave. I commend y'all for everything that y'all do. My question is, from a creative standpoint, based on sustainability and longevity, do you advise reinventing the wheel or going with what's working and putting your own spin on it?
I'm going to go back to Inside Out. I can't advise you because it has to come from your heart, in your body, in your mind, and what you really believe in. And there's a space for both, but it just has to be original, So whatever that is that you really feel from the inside, because that's what you're going to create.
I want to add to that is that it's critical that you understand the wheel that exists and that it's been here for a long time, and there's a reason why. When you understand that wheel and then you do the internal work of what you see, is a spoke that's missing in that wheel. Maybe it's just one wheel and you're like, I think we need 3 more because we need to move this car. I think that's pretty important. And I think that, and I mentioned it earlier, we did not, in early streetwear, understand the wheel that existed and relied on other people to tell us what that wheel was instead of really learning it for ourselves. We had all the sauce though, and we had all the creativity, and we knew what we wanted to say, but how to get it out and look at that wheel.
We have time for one more question, and then we will wrap up.
Sorry, I got excited. Hello, everybody. My name is McHayle. I'm a photographer. Thank you, ladies, for coming and speaking to us. This has been an amazing Thursday. I had a really boring class, so I'm I'm so happy to be here. I want to especially thank Nadirah for coming because I'm a photographer. I love archives. I love looking at photos. I love going back in time and being understand
Yes.
what life was like before I even was thought of. So
Same.
thank you. I want to thank these three ladies for continue to coming and breaking down barriers in hip hop and keep being here, and love y'all so much. I do really want to ask a question. Hip hop is very new. You guys are very young, and you obviously have grown up within hip hop. I feel like it's not really thought of on the fact that you guys were so young while doing this, and a lot of you guys were very new, and even hip hop was new within the genre and where it can go within clothing. These white conglomerate businesses were literally trying to take you out. So I kind of want to talk about, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, which is how did you really keep going? Like, you guys were kids. You're 20 years old. You guys were like 20 years old. I'm 23 years old, and I can't imagine a huge business taking my idea and ripping it off and being like, you didn't even do this, shut up, like, and not even trying to. I would go crazy. I really think I would go crazy and try to get them. So I just wanted to ask, like, what, I know it's like the will, I know it's like, you know, we had the sauce, we knew everything, but really what made you keep going every day and keep making new clothes and keep being like, you know, this is me, we're not gonna stop?
Faith over fear. I think that's when I look back, I've always had a spiritual walk, and not to be preachy right now, but I believe God gives us all talents and plants. We're all assigned to plant certain seeds. And I didn't understand it as much as I understand it now, but that was the keep moving forward. There was the energy that was pushing me forward when I didn't think I could move forward. Plain and simple, I can say that I thought I was but that wasn't it. You know, it was always about serving and feeling like that energy was coming back to me tenfold of confirmation of this is what you need to do, and yes, and the world might not get it, but you got an audience right here and people that do. So you just focus on what you're supposed to do and don't give up, because you've probably heard it before, but right before you give up is when it comes, most of the time. So I kept hearing that. I grew up with creators, so I never gave up because, you know, I come from the belief. I believe in God, and so, you know, that carried me through. And I'm not going to say for the first 3 years I had rice and beans, literally, for dinner. And I had to say no to a lot of parties that my friends were going to because I was focused. So it's just like, I would say, instead of saying, I heard somebody else say this, and it's true, instead of looking at it as sacrifice, look at it as obedience to your dream.
So Fly Girls reminds us that style is never just aesthetic, it's political, cultural, and personal. Making sure we honor hip-hop's leading ladies is as much about reclaiming authorship as it is about rewriting her story with accuracy and respect. I want to pay a special thank you to the FIT Gladys Marcus Library for having us, the production team, and event team here at FIT. Thank you, Joanna. Then finally, of course, the Fly Girls on the stage, and my wonderful co-captain in all this, Jen Brady. It's really important for us to stave, not only to say thank you, but also to you, the community, and remember, every girl has a Fly Girl in her. So with that, until next time and good night, please take a look at our books and our merchandise outside, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. All right, ladies, it's a wrap.
Let's get a picture, you guys.